The Ontario Liberal government has put in place a number of different programs in order to help attract not just manufacturing jobs, but advanced manufacturing jobs, boosting up the IT sector in Waterloo, which does benefit our territories, and recently has provided 5 grants from the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund, investing in the business with the proviso that they add jobs. So we have actually brought manufacturing jobs right here to Cambridge in the last 3 months. 3 examples would be Comdev, Meridian, and Cambridge Towel. There's 2 ways of going about it. Either you can lower business taxes to the point where you hope that the businesses will then create jobs, but that trickle-down economic has not been shown to work in other jurisdictions. Or you can partner with your community and private businesses and put a small investment then to leverage the money from private investments to create jobs. And that's actually what's happening. The Southwestern Ontario Development Fund has actually put in $40 million, has leveraged $400 million in private money, and has actually created and protected about 12,000 jobs right here in the region of Waterloo.
Well, what the Green Party is proposing, and I think it's brilliant, is to lower the payroll taxes on small businesses, and actually that is what our press release is for you today. So by doing that, you are investing in the sector of the economy that is making the most jobs. So in 2008, it produced, I think it was 400,000 jobs. It was the most resilient sector of the economy. And by doing that, by cutting taxes on, or lowering taxes on, payroll taxes on small businesses, you're actually rewarding people for having more jobs come into the riding. Whereas if you just cut taxes across the board, you're really, you're almost hurting the job growth type thing. So what I would do as an MPP is to also invest in the Social Innovation Fund, which is in the Green Party's platform. And what that is to do is to help the youth of today invest their skills into the job market. Instead of the job market telling what it needs of youth, have the youth tell the job market what it can bring. Small businesses, I believe, are the way to go. You're investing in your local economy, and it's resilient. The money stays within it. It's just, that's where the Green Party would like to focus its energy, and I think it's a brilliant platform.
So I think what's happened in our economy is that government's starting to stand in front of business, not get behind them. And that is the ultimate thing that you'll hear from manufacturers, whether it's, and they'll tell you the story, if they're considering expanding, they're looking at other jurisdictions to make that expansion rather than expanding right here at home. And the difference in attitude between neighboring jurisdictions is simply this, that in neighboring jurisdictions they'll sit at a board table much like this one, and they'll have a bunch of people in government saying, listen, how can I get your business? And they'll say that when they're here in Ontario, they have the same boardroom, and it's like there's a bunch of people around that table to say, well, how can I make sure that you have another hurdle to overcome here? Whether that's, sometimes it's labor restrictions that become onerous, and I think every employer wants to be a safe employer, and obviously I would support that. But the municipal planners, I mean, the list goes on. I think there's certainly a lot of red tape that's involved in our businesses that could be reduced. The government is meddling in picking winners and losers. My view is that there should be an environment where the successful businesses are the ones that make the best products or provide the best services. And that's for consumers to decide. So this business of providing grants and subsidies to businesses helps the business that gets it, but the competitor down the road who doesn't get it is not only saddled with not getting that grant, but they're saddled with higher taxes, higher hydro rates, and more regulation. So we think we should level the playing field and let the people's business and products and services do the selling for them and allow them to succeed.
Here in Cambridge, and through Andrew Horvath's team and the NDP, we are proposing job creation tax incentives. So if you hire a new employee, you may get up to 10% of that employee's salary, up to $5,000 for the first year. We also have a manufacturing tax incentive whereby, again, it's 10% of the cost of new equipment what the Ministry of Finance of Ontario has learned is that over the past 35 years, Ontario is really lagging heavily, excuse me, in the purchase of manufacturing equipment, which again, people don't have the money to put into the equipment, then they don't have the money to create the process in the market, and therefore to create jobs. Is that we obviously need to create full-time jobs, preferably with benefits. And as I'm sure you would expect from me, I'm a full supporter of unionized employment. The first time I saw the Fairness Works ads put out through the Canadian Federation of Labour, I mean, I cried because it was so beautiful. Because it's so important. We have to enhance the lives of people. We've got way too many people living in poverty, seniors, families, or otherwise. I mean, I also know that everything that we've talked about is costed, which is also really good to know. So when you look at promises that are made and commitments, things are costed.
Well, people tell me it's red tape. Red tape, and for libertarians, we have a little different philosophy than the big parties. They say they are going to create jobs, and they have the, I think you call it tax and spend policy. They take your money, they tax you, and then they use that in an attempt to create jobs, whereas libertarians would just leave the money in your pocket and you would spend that, and that would create jobs. So we don't see the money as having to run through government's fingers. Of course, governments, it's their nature that they always look after themselves, and then of course they need department after department to run things. And so we take a different approach. Just leave the money in people's pockets, so that they will spend it on things they want and what they need, and that gets the economy going, and that creates jobs. There's a lot of talk about overlap at the different levels of government, and I haven't thought on that a lot. I am a business person, but not the kind that's involved with dealing with governments on an ongoing basis. There needs to be some looking at who's responsible for what, but I mean, then we got other semi-government bodies, the GRCA, that often gets into the mix, and you have to get approval from one after another if you want to do something. So yeah, we need to make things, find ways to simplify things quite a bit.